So, Protoss is just about to be in a bit of a weird spot. And I'm not talking about game design or game balance, although that may very well be the case as well. If anyone is interested, I could make a dedicated video about that too. But this time around, I'm specifically talking about the players at the highest level that actually play with the Protoss pieces. So here's the thing. When it comes to the best Protoss players in the world, they're pretty much all from South Korea, right? And in South Korea, you have to do a mandatory military service before you reach a certain age. Now, here's the thing. For Korean pro gamers right now, and when it comes specifically to Protoss players, Deer, Hero, and Classic are currently in the military, and apparently Stats, Zest, and Parting will have to start up their service very, very soon. The problem is that at that point, there's only a handful of Protoss players that remain, and other than, I would say probably Trap, none of them really are at the tippity top of the skill level. So it's a little bit of an awkward scenario. I figured though, with that, it's time to broaden our horizons a little bit and have a look at some Protoss players here that I don't feature nearly as often. It's time for a best of 5 series between spawning here in the bottom right hand corner of Submarine. That's game number 1 in this series, playing with the blue Protoss probes. We have Creator and his opponent all the way in the opposite corner. We're looking inside of the main base of Hurricane. So, other than the Protoss players that I just named, so Deer, Hero, Classic, Stats, Zest, and Parting, the highest ranked Protoss players from South Korea currently are Trap, Hurricane, and then Creator. Obviously, outside of South Korea, there's a bunch of really good Protoss players as well. We're talking, obviously, Astrea recently, Neeb is very good, Showtime is very good, Harstem is really good. Obviously, SOS, actually, I almost forgot about SOS. SOS is obviously very good as well. But it is a bit of an awkward position, right? So, I'm actually interested in hearing your thoughts down below in the comment section, because the thing is, Protoss is already not winning a whole lot of tournaments recently as it is, and despite the fact that Protoss is introducing some buffs to the Void Ray, and you know, they have made some changes to Protoss here and there, I'm a little bit concerned personally that we're not going to be seeing that many Protoss wins, you know, in the foreseeable future either, if all those guys have to start up their military service. Now, I believe Stats and Zest have to start it very soon because of their age. So if you're born in 92, you have to start your military service this year. However, I think Parting is born after that, but for some reason he got the call as well. I'm not entirely sure, man. I don't really know exactly how the system works. I am no expert whatsoever, but yeah, I do love StarCraft, and it does put us in a bit of a strange situation. Regardless, very standard opener right here from both players. It's going to be 2 Adepts versus 2 Adepts. Looks like this probe may very well end up going down, although maybe the Adepts can prevent that from happening. As a follow-up right now, we have double sentries right here from Hurricane, and his opponent is going to go for additional Adepts as well. However, there is already a Stargate coming up here as well for Creator, whereas on the other side of the map for Hurricane, we see a much faster expansion here on the low ground. Alrighty, so PvP. It's the matchup that I think has changed the most over the course of the last couple of months. The changes that they've made to the shield battery obviously are absolutely massive. So in the past we saw a lot of cheese, and while cheese obviously is still very common in this matchup, recently we have been seeing a lot more expansion games as well, so I'm secretly hoping we're going to be seeing some of that too. Now, initially, after they first introduced the shield battery overcharge thing, like PvP was all over the place, so I'm actually excited to see where it is going to be at today right now, because at the time, at the very least, it seemed like no one really knew exactly what the best way of playing this matchup was. So maybe right now, I mean, this was played a couple days back, maybe we're going to be seeing a little bit more variety once again. I'm excited for it, man. PvP, it is certainly a really, really good matchup right now, and we'll see where it's going to go in the future as well as strategies get figured out more and more. Alrighty, so all eyes right now, I think, are currently on these Adepts. Ooh. And then also that Oracle. So currently there are no probes in the natural, which is a little bit awkward. Hurricane went for the faster expo. He knows right now that there is a Stargate opener coming up as well. Oh my god, this is actually kind of awkward right now, yeah. So these Stalkers are currently outside of the natural. Still though, the shield battery there in the mineral line, yeah. It still defends everything just fine. And actually, on the other side of the map, in the meantime, we do see 2 Adepts shading in. So while it kind of felt like Creator was the one who was supposed to do damage, in this particular instance, it looks like it was actually the player in red that managed to kill a couple of those bad boys. Alrighty, this does put him in a pretty nice economical position right now. Killing a couple of probes and then obviously already having that faster expo does give him a slight advantage. All things considered, though, I think we are in a relatively even mode right now. I mean, he could go ahead and commit over here. Yeah, kill maybe a couple of probes, but these Adepts are not likely to make it out of there. Maybe 1 or 2 will survive, but I've got a feeling that at least the majority of them will end up dying here. So at the cost of 4 probes, I don't think Hurricane is going to be all too afraid of that trade right there. Alright, so now with 2 Oracles out, he could certainly start poking away inside of that mineral line, but already, obviously, Hurricane has been given a lot more time to get himself some more defenses out, and I don't really see too many of those probes dying here. He is going to commit pretty deep, just because these Oracles really fall out of favor a little while later into the game. With Blink finishing up, obviously, especially, these Oracles are going to be pretty much pointless, other than maybe for the occasional Revelation tag, but... Alright, reasonable amount of damage done, but really nothing to write home about. So that certainly right now puts the advantage in this game to Hurricane, but it's nothing too significant, right? So very much so like we see in the Terran versus Terran matchup. The defender's advantage in Protoss versus Protoss is absolutely massive, right? So in TVT, it's a little bit easier to explain because if you have a bunch of siege tanks, you know, sitting at your bases, just simply having them in position makes it difficult for your opponent to push into it, right? And because of that, obviously defending big pushes is quite a bit easier. He does have Blink done almost, so gotta be careful right there, Oracle. Anyways, in PvP, the battery overcharge, which is a thing that they added to the Nexus not that long ago. You can basically overcharge one of these shield batteries and you can replenish the shields on your units far more quickly for a little while. And it basically means that you can defend a lot of pushes quite a bit easier too. So it seems like that change has helped Protoss versus Protoss out quite a bit. I don't really know exactly how I feel about it in Protoss versus Terran and then also in Protoss versus Zerg. It seems like it creates a little bit like too much forced passivity, I suppose, because neither player really tends to commit to a whole lot of aggression right now in any of those matchups. The same actually can kind of be said for PvP, but PvP was exceptionally cheesy in the past. We saw a lot of proxy robos and a lot of proxy gateways and a lot of shenanigans in general. And while you can still technically pull that off, the shield battery overcharge does help you defend against that kind of stuff quite a bit easier. So notice already, right? Even if you compare this right now to a month ago, which is when I think I casted... Well, I don't really know exactly when the last PvP was that I casted, but this already seems to be a little bit more passive. And that tends to be what happens when a matchup matures. Since players figure out what is the quote-unquote ideal way of opening up, usually they will then also learn what the best way of defending is, right? So if you know exactly at what time you need to get your Robo out in order to get the Observers out in order to deal with Dark Templar, you can obviously try cut some corners here and there. But generally speaking, as a matchup matures, we see a lot more passivity. Now, this is the first time that we see Hurricane going for a big move, and I'm actually liking this position for him quite a bit. There is an Immortal in this army composition as well. We don't see anything along those lines just yet for Creator. With the Nexus not done yet, either Shield Battery Overcharge is not going to be available yet. And right now, obviously, with that structure down, he's not going to be able to overcharge very much of anything over here at the third base. I think he's just going to try, there we go, Hurricane. I think he's just going to try and go in for the kill at the Nexus point itself. A couple of probes in the meantime do get killed over at the third base there of, what's it called, Hurricane. Loses a Stalker right there at the front too, but nothing too crazy. I think right now he's probably going to go back home again. I don't think Hurricane really needs to commit there. Generally speaking, when you're ahead, you try to get more ahead, so I wouldn't be surprised if Hurricane just simply decides to go back home. I mean, he could try and test the waters a little bit more. He does still have a really nice supply advantage as well, but it's not a bad move at this point to just sit back and macro up instead. Okay, there we go. Prism falls out of the sky after getting shot at right there by a couple of these Stalkers. And that's going to shut down the aggression for certain. All right. That's a very Stalker-heavy force, by the way, for Creator. Yeah, we're talking 23 Stalkers, actually. Hurricane has more, interestingly enough. This is a very awkward position right now, though. I guess he's going to have to recall. There we go. The get out of jail for, well, almost free card. You lose a couple of Stalkers, but at least he manages to get out of there, which is most important. Creator does now obtain the supply lead there temporarily, at least for a little bit. And this may have very well evened up the game quite a bit. Oracle eventually does go down, but it got quite a few worker kills there, all things considered. Let's see how this fight goes. Now, beautiful slice off right there. Is he going to be able to get these Immortals? Not quite. Prism comes in from the side as well. Excellent micro here by both players, utilizing both the Prism as well as the Blink ability. Who actually blinks forward right there, Hurricane that is, and he manages to snipe his opponent's Prism, but wasn't that a little bit too aggressive? It's hard to say. I guess with the Immortal left over right now and with some good micro there on the side of Hurricane, he is going to be able to get a lot of value out of his units. This is actually a surprisingly close battle here. Neither player obviously getting the advantage there of that battery. So it's, yeah, just a straight up slugfest there in the center of the map. And honestly, that felt like a very even trade. If you look right now at the resources lost, yeah, I guess Creator has lost slightly more. But that was very negligible. Nicely done there. That does mean, though, with Hurricane having that third base up and running, right? And Creator, well, losing his earlier, I'm liking this position for Hurricane a lot. A trade like that, it makes sense, right? All he needs to do right now is just make a lot more stuff. And, well, more stuff tends to beat less stuff in SC2. Would not be surprised right now if Hurricane is gonna, you know, either go for a timing attack or just sit back and just make a really, really big force. He's just chasing this down, though. Apparently, he feels really confident. This seems a little bit overly aggressive to me, but I guess he's getting a lot of value here for the couple of Zealots that he's losing. Immortal. Under a little bit of pressure here. Ooh, nice surround actually as well though by Creator, but I don't think he has the numbers anymore. Yeah, strategically the moves that he's making made a lot of sense, but Hurricane has just way too much stuff. Alrighty, so here we go. Game number 2, we find ourselves on the map Death Aura. A little bit of a bigger map, a lot of different places where you can go ahead and hide your structures if you want to, but wouldn't be surprised if this is just going to be a very normal game as well. It seems to be the map, at least, where most people just like to play solid, straightforward macro games. Protoss players in particular can go ahead and take like this triangle base quite easily. So it seems like Zergs prefer taking the base over here. And Terrans actually go for this one quite a bit as well as their third base. Protoss, though, likes having that high ground over here. Likes having control of this little triangular position here on the map. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to be seeing something along those lines as well. Although, scratch all of that. Never mind, guys. Forget all I mentioned. Creator has decided to plant down the forge. Now, a probe is currently making its way right there towards the natural. Oh my god. Alright, well, there we go. That was just barely outside of vision range. Second probe is now moving across as well. Hurricane will probably make the assumption that this is going to be the very first probe scout, although the timing of that is a little bit strange. The timing of that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Is he going to check? Okay, he's not. He's just going to check where that probe went. Oh, here come the photon cannons. This is just barely inside of range right now. Hurricane responds extremely fastly, or extremely quickly rather. He immediately picks up a couple of probes from the mineral line, and he starts attacking the photon cannons. And I think that this is a really good position for him to be in, right? As long as these photon cannons don't finish, eventually a Zealot will come out. That one can aid very, very nicely here. I think this is health. Super clean defense right here by Hurricane. To simply seize the units, pulls the right amount of probes. He just kills the structures before they even get up in the first place. Hurricane kills a probe over there too. Kills the second probe, and with that, yep, game over. GG is called. Hurricane wins game number 2. Alright, so there's a reason why, in general, we don't really see a whole lot of cannon rushes anymore at the professional level. And I think that that previous game really showed you why. If you know what to do and you know how to respond and you know at what point to scout, generally speaking, the cannon rushes seem to get shut down before they even properly get underway. Now, obviously, if you can get the photon cannons up, life's gonna be pretty neat, and you can obviously potentially win the game straight up, but it doesn't really seem to happen all too often anymore. Now, I guess Hurricane got a little bit lucky as well there because he actually saw the photon cannons. Maybe Creator could have gone a little bit with a less aggressive opener, right? And maybe put like one of the photon cannons in the back and then add on the other two a little while later. That's obviously an option, but at that point your opponent is going to have the cybernetic score done and they can start building out a couple of those, couple of stalkers as well, and that just shuts everything down as well. So I don't really see a whole lot of cannon rush anymore, and I'm kind of glad. Well, actually, as a Zerg player at heart, this was kind of cool. As a Zerg player at heart, I feel really good against cannon rush. So if you meet me on the ladder, please cannon rush me. I think my win rate is like 80% or something like that. I don't see it a whole lot anymore though. Sadly, man. Anyhow, here we go. Let's see what ends up going down here. So this probe took a bit of a strange path across the map. Maybe a Hurricane is the one who's feeling a little lucky here. Wouldn't be surprised if he decides to plant down... No, he already actually planted down the second pylon. was going to say, I wouldn't be surprised if he decides to plant down a second pylon across. Not quite going to happen, though. Very fast expo here from Creator, who's now finally going for the cybernetics core, too. Hurricane does decide to plant down the third pylon. Okay. So this is technically a little bit of an inferior kind of cheese. Because, I mean, this, like, he makes it look like this is a standard macro opener, right? It looks like that he's gonna go for an expo here very, very shortly. The thing is, he was forced to plant down a second pylon inside of the main base to sell that story. So right now, he's all the way up to 39 available supply. I think with the Cybercore finishing up, he's probably gonna go for a Robo. Oh no, it's actually gonna be a Stargate, okay. Stargate, apparently the new flavor of the month. Let's see how well Creator is gonna be able to respond to this. Yeah, so at this point, Creator probably knows as well that something's not quite right? Because that Nexus was already supposed to go down. Obviously, he could also purposefully delay it if he really, really wanted to. Maybe he's not entirely convinced about it yet. Okay. Ooh, Probe actually lives. Wow. Hurricane could have certainly gotten the kill on that one. But just leaving the pylon over there, I guess, also ensures that you know whether or not something is going on there. It's gonna even be a gateway right now as a follow-up too. Now, in the meantime, Creator has decided to go for his own Stargate. So this should be very reasonable. He hasn't quite seen the proxy yet, but he has found a cheeky little probe somewhere out on the map. If he can kill that pylon that's powering everything, that's gonna make life pretty good. Okay, now he's not even gonna try. He knows the timing at which that Oracle is gonna come out, so already runs a couple of these bad boys away. Wouldn't be surprised to maybe... Ooh, actually, this pylon is in a bit of an awkward spot. Wouldn't be surprised, I was gonna say, to maybe see a shield battery inside of the main base too, but not gonna be able to easily do that. I love the fact that he's actually abandoning the natural right now, and he's just, you know, putting all of his eggs in the basket of defending his own main base. As long as he can keep most of these probes alive, life's gonna be pretty neat, man. Now, he is going to town on that shield battery, which is a bit of an awkward thing to go at, but I guess it does make sense. Another Stalker finishes, and I think that this is, once again, a very easy hold, especially right now with the Phoenix out. I mean, Oracles do not have an air-to-air attack. Phoenix lifts up the Stalker, and this is... I mean, pretty much game over, right? I mean, there's still no expansion here on the low ground. We are now talking 1 base versus 2 base, where Creator is literally ahead in eco and in every way possible, right? Eco, tech, and then, you know, just supply and army and stuff, right? Like, he's in a really, really good position. There's gonna be a last-ditch effort here from Hurricane, but the shield batteries are coming up. Maybe if he can kill the cybernetics core, there is a chance. Prismatic alignment there activated on that Void Ray. Good force field as well, but the battery, oh my god, the battery just keeps that one Stalker alive. Probes are pulled away as well from the mineral line. A couple of them will sacrifice themselves in the name of ire. But this push, yeah, there's no way. There's no way. Right? Nah. Nah. He's really trying, though. Battery overcharge, sorry, the prismatic alignment once again available. But yeah. Feel like it was game over about a minute ago, but eventually Creator does obtain the victory. Okay, so here we go. Game number 4. I want to just see a normal game, man. Stop with the proxy, stop with the cheese, please. You know what, though? Even though this cheese was scouted in the previous game, I'm pretty sure without that battery overcharge, Hurricane would have still won that in the previous balance patch. You know what I mean? It's kind of crazy. Like, that's a good example of why I do like the battery overcharge quite a bit in this matchup. I would actually wager that, like, Protoss versus Protoss is the one matchup as well where the Mothership Core, you guys remember the Mothership Core? It's been a little while. I think it was the one matchup where the Mothership Core was actually quite good. Obviously, it kind of sucked for, well, all of the other matchups. For those of you unfamiliar, the Mothership Core, it basically had an ability to overcharge the Nexus or to overcharge a pylon a little bit later on into the production cycle of the game. But basically, long story short, it could just, you know, fly in the air, so Zerg didn't really have any ways of dealing with it. And then it would just battery overcharge, or I guess it wasn't, what was it called? Photon overcharge? I think it was called Photon overcharge. Yeah, it would overcharge a pylon or a Nexus, and then that would basically turn into a massive cannon that was very difficult to shut down. And it would last for like a minute. So essentially what ended up happening over time is that as Protoss players got more and more comfortable with the Mothership Core, literally their entire early game defense was the Mothership Core. So they would just have like a Nexus on the low ground and then a Mothership Core above. And whenever something got close, you just overcharged it and you'd be fine for like a minute. It was really kind of lame. Rather than fixing the early game, they put a massive band-aid on it and called it fixed. So I'm very glad that they decided to replace it eventually with the shield battery. But I don't know. I don't know. It does create a lot of passivity, right? And I don't really know exactly if I like that passivity too much for the other two matchups. It's kind of weird though, because if you dial the passivity back, right? If you dial back the strength of the shield battery, it's gonna make this matchup extremely cheesy. But I think it does improve the other two matchups. I don't know. I'm no expert though. Well, I guess technically I am, but I'm no expert when it comes to top-level Protoss gameplay. Although I try my very best to learn and watch as many of these games as I possibly can. Anyways, regardless. Double gateway follow-up here, or opening rather, once again by Creator. And in the meantime, we can see the same thing happening here for Hurricane. Very strange positioning here on these structures. I guess this pylon over here does allow the advantage of getting like a shield battery here on the low ground as well. So you can power that one with the pylon on the high ground, which is much more difficult to kill. So I guess I like that idea. Hurricane, though, just going for the good old standard one where you put the pylon right over here on the low ground. And probably the Nexus over here and a battery in front a little while later. Technically a little more exposed, I suppose, but it doesn't really matter all too much. And this is what I'm talking about. The shield battery over here. Very difficult to unpower that. Anyways, 2 Stalkers versus 2 Adepts. There we go. Getting the kill on 1 Adept here is very, very nice. Should be able to prevent these units from getting in. There you go. Shield battery finishes up this wall off over here too. Adept once again tries to shade into the main base. Not going to happen this time around. And I wouldn't be surprised to see that shield battery cancelled here in just a little bit. There we go. Nexus will eventually come up as well. So if you're not entirely sure on how to open up in PvP, this is kind of the standard. The one that Hurricane is going for here. It seems to be a very powerful, straightforward way of opening up. I mean, you can try your hand at Adept as well, but I think I prefer the Stalker opener instead, just because it seems to be a little bit easier, right? Like the Adepts, they require a specific button as well to play properly, plus the Stalkers are going to be far more helpful in the mid-game. So if you're looking for a build order, I would go for something along the lines of what Hurricane is playing right now. It's been working out very, very well, at least in my own PvP games. Alright, so Stargate versus Robo. Oracle is going to be flying across the map. Let's see how well Creator is going to be able to defend against it. Hallucinated Phoenix will soon confirm as well what it is that the player in blue is going for. So Creator currently has no idea. So let's see. Well, he sees the probe transfer, so he knows what's up. Sees the additional structures, so Robo is coming up, and he also now knows that there's probably going to be an Oracle on his side of the map. Units are splitting themselves up right now. So how many probes can be killed? 1? 1. These Protoss players, man, at the highest level, it's so sick. The damage dealt is so small. If you watch like players in Gold League do this exact same thing, there's a very good chance that they will have all of their units either in the natural or inside of the main base. Doesn't look like a big deal, but that's the difference between losing 1 probe and 9 probes, right? Like, it adds up very, very quickly. Losing 9 probes at this point in the game is basically game over. Love this little move as well from Creator, actually. Patrolling an hallucinated Phoenix just so he can gauge the angle at which these units come in from. Really, really like that. And I think that these Oracles are basically shut down right now. Now, obviously, you can keep them alive, like we saw in the game number 1. Maybe he can send them into the opponent's bases after the opponent is going to be busy, maybe fighting on their side of the map. But generally speaking, these Oracles, they're going to be shut down for the foreseeable future. A couple of stasis wards are being set up right now, so maybe they can trap some of these Protoss units. Creator, obviously, with the significantly faster robotics facility, he already does have an Immortal out. So this Immortal is going to be absolutely fantastic. War Prism now coming up as well. Now, does he see that little wiggle? You see the little wiggle? Oh my god, it's so difficult to spot even when observing the game. Goodbye. That's this push basically defended. Protoss has so many tricks, man. Like, Protoss has so many different tricks up their sleeve. I kind of like it. Can be really frustrating to play against, obviously, but is he going to be able to save these units? Yeah. He can lift up all of this. Oh my god, that's so... Oh my god, beautiful move actually there. Yeah, I really like that. Using the Oracles right there for high ground vision, that means that the Immortal there falls. At the same time, apparently, an Adept managed to shade it. Probably was 2 Adepts. 3 probes here in total, but at the cost of an Immortal. Not bad at all. Actually, no, that was Hurricane in both situations, being in a pretty good spot there. So, Immortal count is super important in the mid game. So if you're not entirely sure what you're looking for in the mid-game, obviously the micro with the prism and the stalkers and stuff, very important. But until disruptors come out, immortals are absolute king. Immortals deal bonus damage against armored, obviously, and it seems like all these units are armored, which is pretty neat. There we go. By the way, Hurricane adding on the Robo Bay, so that's pretty good. We have seen a little bit of Colossus play as well, actually, in this matchup recently, which I do like. But I'm pretty sure that this is going to be the Disruptor War. Disruptor War is always a lot of fun as well. Very, very nail-biting and difficult to play, but I like watching it. Don't really like playing it very much myself. Alright then. Immortals, man, they're so tanky. They barely ever die. Some might even say they are badoomts immortal. Sorry. I didn't have my drum set ready to go, so I had to. Anyways. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry, that was terrible. Here's the oracles again from earlier. Trying to get whatever probe kill they can. I think they've got 3 kills right now combined. So a little bit of damage here being done by Hurricane, but relatively minor, all things considered. One thing to keep in mind, obviously, is that Creator had that faster expansion. So despite him taking a bunch of damage, it kind of evens out in the long run, right? Like, he took a little bit of damage, but, you know, all roads lead to Rome. All roads apparently lead to 94 out of 94 supply, where you both hit a supply block. Interesting. Oh my god, this is actually a huge supply block here from Hurricane. He's only just now adding on additional pylons. Generally speaking, at this level, we don't really see a lot of supply blocks. And usually if we do, it's going to be an intentional one. So maybe it was. Yeah, he actually did add on another pylon elsewhere as well that just now finished up. So maybe he wanted to save up some extra minerals there just to finish up the gateways instead. Because he hasn't been flooding any resources, so... I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, okay? It probably was intentional. Anyway, so... Robo base for both players, disruptors for both players as well. Real quick recap here on the disruptor. So disruptors have a spell called Purification Nova. They basically shoot forth a mine. It deals a lot of damage, however it also deals friendly fire. So if you use the Purification Nova on your own units that aren't disruptors, they basically all die, which kind of sucks, right? However, the Purification Nova, it does have a little bit of charge up time. So while you're deploying it, the unit is vulnerable. It's not going to be able to move around or anything along those lines. And if the opponent manages to kill the disruptor that is casting Purification Nova before it detonates, the detonation is cancelled entirely. Now, because of the micro potential between the Prism, the Stalker, and the Disruptor, it seems to be that numbers are secondary to actually good control. We'll see how this ends up going down, man. Because the micro potential for all of those units is absolutely ridiculous. Whenever someone tells you that Protoss is the easy race, just call them out on their bullshit, okay? Because this is extremely difficult to play properly. Alright, well, so far, nothing really too crazy here. But yeah, some people say that Protoss is the F2A move race. Give it a try with this army composition. I dare you. This is probably the hardest unit composition in the game to play, other than maybe like late game Zerg with like Viper, Infestor and all that. But this is very, very difficult to properly control. That said though, Creator, with all those small moves that he's been making, he has succeeded right now in getting a very, very nice supply lead. I think it may have to do as well with that little supply block, man. Creator getting himself an extra warp-in cycle in certainly helps out. 4th base has been acquired. That's what I mean, man. You can bait your opponent into, like, blinking at the last possible moment as well, right? He's setting up a bit of a surround here. Careful for your own stalkers now. He really wants to try and see if he can keep this base alive. Creator, though, is getting to the point where he is slowly maxing out. Ooh, he almost blinked into his own purification ball there. Okay, gets one of his opponent's disruptors there with his own disruptors. It's like 2 lions growling at each other, but no one really wants to commit here, okay? They're acting cool and stuff, they're making themselves look menacing, but big picture, no one really wants to fight. And both of them do want to fight, but only if the opponent, you know, gives them the good fight. Now, I like this. Okay, so this is what we've seen quite a bit in PvT. I'm glad to see this now also becoming a thing in Protoss versus Protoss. Actually, it may have very well been a thing in PvP before PvT. Regardless, there's the Dark Shrine Blink upgrade. So that's going to give the Dark Templar Shadow Stride, which is essentially a blink ability, allows them to go around the map. So if you didn't have enough units to micro already, you can now also micro with a bunch of those bad boys. And you know what? With both players right now having secured a 4th base, I think we are setting ourselves up for a really nice late game of Protoss versus Protoss. Assuming that, well, one of these guys is not going to take a massive Purification Nova to the face. But I think we're setting ourselves up for a really nice macro game here. So 5th Nexus is coming up, at least for the player in red. Wouldn't be surprised to see one coming up here for Hurricane shortly as well. Purification Nova once again being utilized. Obviously, while the unit's in stasis, they won't be taking any damage. We see Blink Dark Templar for the other player as well. Ooh, another one of the disruptors ends up going down. And look at the tricks that are being employed here, man. Creator certainly showcasing some superior micros so far. I really, really like it. There we go. Gets a couple units here and there. Okay, finally though. Blinks forward right now is Hurricane. Tries to kill the opponent's disruptors here at the same time though, while also deploying his own Purification Novas. A lot of units right now are stuck in stasis. Apparently during all of this, a couple of probes ended up going down too. Just a handful though. Most importantly now, right now for Hurricane though, is he keeps that 4th base alive. Alright, so Shadow Stride is done. Shadow Stride here for Hurricane is about halfway done as well, so I like it. Ooh, at this point, Hurricane apparently feels a little adventurous, decides to move out, maybe try and see if he can set up a base around here on a lot of these red units as well, but I think he's going to be forced to, at the very least, back off here for the time being. Alrighty. So what if we have a look right now at the resources lost? Yeah, it's relatively even, all things considered. It actually felt like Creator was microing a little bit better there, but I may have been mistaken. Obviously, it lost a lot of those units earlier on, right? So I guess the mid-game fights have been pretty much even. There we go. Once again, blows up another one of those disruptors. Nicely done there. All right. Here goes Hurricane, though. Apparently, he's happy with the units that he's got right now for base defense. He's got some static defense over at the 3rd base as well. He's now going to force a lot of these Stalkers in red to go all the way back. He could just try and right-click the Nexus. Ooh, he probably wanted to see if he could give that a moment there, but not quite going to happen. That does mean, though, that these units will likely be forced to recall on out of there because Creator is already setting up a surround once again. 5th base does get spotted, I suppose. This is one way to get that scout in. Obviously, though, splitting your units up does not allow you to actually get a good recall in anymore. So while he is going to recall here eventually, that's going to be a lot of dead Stalkers. At the same time, looks like a bunch of Dark Templar have made their way over to the 3rd base where those Zealots were previously located. Actually, were those defensive Dark Templar? They may have all been defensive Dark Templar. Nicely done regardless, though. A bunch of probes ended up going down there. Creator, once again, looking very, very strong there. That said, both players are maxed out now, right? I mean, for all intents and purposes, Hurricane right now is maxed out as well. Ooh, Creator apparently donating 2 Immortals. Nicely done, dude. Not really what we normally want to see. I mean, as long as he warps in right now, he's going to be maxed out. I guess he really wants to get some higher tier units instead. Double engagement here going on. One red Dark Templar trying desperately to get a little bit of damage in as well. A couple of Stalkers here are available. 5th Nexus will be acquired on the low ground by Hurricane 2, just like Creator did over here. But Creator has had his one up for a little while already. So at least as far as like the probe saturation goes, he's quite a bit ahead there. Wouldn't be surprised if he's going to be able to pull ahead a little bit more as well for the foreseeable future until this Nexus finishes up. Okay. Big Stalker ball right now in the top section of the screen. There are some defensive units available as well, but at the same time, Creator right now is pushing into the 5th base of his opponent. Another Disruptor there does fall. This is a bit of an awkward fight right now, though, for Hurricane, who decides to get on out of there. 5th base will be cancelled there, so Creator secures his economical advantage here. Okay, Dark Templar versus Dark Templar. For some reason, they can't spot each other until there's an observer nearby. I don't know how that works either, because they know that their brothers are here, but for some reason, they don't know if the opponent's brothers are there. It's a little bit confusing. Don't ask any questions. It's totally fine. Right now, though, Observer up in the air, trying to see if it can potentially spot some of those cloak units as well. At the same time, while this is going on, we still see some Disruptor balls being thrown over from one base to the next. Dark Templar being warped in defensively, man. I love it. They're so extremely powerful. And obviously, you can always morph them into Archons if you want to make use of them in the big battles. At the same time, Creator right now has returned with the majority of his force. Ooh, he does manage to blow up a couple of the Zealots that were charging on top of those Disruptors. Hurricane desperately tries to get those units to safety right now. Blink is on cooldown, so he ends up losing a couple more of those blue Stalkers. All right. This has been an absolute slugfest of Protoss versus Protoss so far. I just want to once again emphasize that this game can be over with one Purification Nova. Man, that's a lot of Disruptors. How many are we talking right now? 11 Disruptors? Okay, then. At the same time, while this skirmish is going on here in the center of the map, there is a... ooh, he actually bypassed that entirely. He's gonna send the Dark Templar apparently to this location over here. Goes after the pylon and actually cancels the warp in there and also unpowers all of these structures. The Dark Templar were basically dead and then they won that fight. Fantastic move there by Creator. Looks like this Nexus over here will end up getting cancelled as well. Both players though microing at several different locations all at once. Splitting your attention at this point is extremely difficult. If you look right now at the actions per minute, you can see both of them happily tapping away there at the keyboards. I mean, 600 APM is 10 buttons a second, right? So 400 APM. You can do the math. Not bad at all. Both players trying to micro as fast as they possibly can, making sure that they split their attention at the right location. Oracles will finally get shut down. They've actually been alive for a very, very long time. It looks to me like Creator has wanted to take like a head-on fight for quite some time here. Well, then doing a bit of a run-by over in, you know, this location of the map. I wouldn't necessarily mind seeing like a really big fight right now. Both players max out, all-out slugfest in the middle of the map. No one gets the defender's advantage. Let's see who can micro better. I want to see that, but I don't know if it's going to happen, you know. I think it is probably helpful to split up your units in this kind of scenario and try to just, yeah, hit your opponent where he's currently not located. Use that high ground advantage and use that defender's advantage as well. So here comes the red Protoss player once again. Is he paying attention? He's not! Oh my god! At the same time, I think why he was occupied is this little force over at the third base. Creator loses a massive chunk of his Stalkers. Stalkers obviously still very helpful. But he's probably going to be replacing them with more Disruptors and maybe even a couple more of those Immortals as well. Additional Zealots now also warped in here. So they're going to... Where are they? I think they... Oh, okay. I guess they just joined the main force instead. Dark Templar that was in the top left-hand corner of the map will get killed too. Looks like once more a Purification Nova does connect. This Protoss army, though, is in a bit of a weird spot because they have absolutely no detection. You can hallucinate an observer maybe, but... Actually, you can't. I guess that this army is not going to be able to make their way home. Dark Templar fighting Dark Templar. Not a fight we see all too often. But eventually, though, it looks like Hurricane is going to be able to at least retreat with some of those units. But he lost a lot of stuff as well. Here we go, once again. How many Dark Templar have we seen in this game so far? Dark Templar have insane DPS, right? And even though they're technically countered with an observer up in the air, they can still be extremely useful just as like a damage dealing unit. It's just that they're very expensive as well. So this base over here, basically toast. Pun not intended. Yeah, that Nexus is gonna fall extremely quickly. At the same time, though, right now, Creator has found a bit of an opening here. There's not really that many Disruptors anymore for the player in blue, who decides to just simply blink on top of all of these Protoss units. Is there gonna be enough right now for Hurricane to hold on to this position? A Disruptor does finish up and actually kills, I guess, an even amount of Stalkers in red as well as in blue. Reinforcing units right now for Creator coming up as well from the side. A couple of Dark Templar going to town on the probes in the third base and that mineral line in general. The Dark Templar, though, that ended up killing this base earlier are now also going after the expansion over here. And they do manage to snipe another Nexus. What a ridiculous game. Oh my god. Players are literally everywhere. One hero Archon desperately trying to see if he can kill that Nexus as well. Apparently, these Dark Templar over here are smelling blood in the water. If they can kill both of the pylons, I guess that might make this reasonable, but I think they may have overcommitted just a little bit, as they will be forced to back off. At the same time, though, Creator just now managed to kill his opponent's third base, and while Hurricane is still mining, I guess this expansion over here, it's got 49 probes at it. He's getting very little value out of that expansion. Once again, all on Slugfest right over here. Fights are happening everywhere, guys. Despite the fact that they are opposite colors, these engagements are very difficult to observe properly. Whew. All right. F2A move. Just link them this game, okay? If someone says Protoss is F2A move. If anything, okay, in StarCraft 2, the all army hotkey, attack move, race, it's probably Zerg, man. Zerg tends to just simply set up the engagement and then, you know, attack move, right? Not that much micro involved. Here we go, though. Ooh, once again, big disruptor hit there by Creator. He is starting to pull ahead when it comes to that supply count. He's been aggressive for a very, very long time, and while he ended up losing 2 bases in the top section of the map, he is now reacquiring one in the bottom, or I guess this is bottom right-hand corner. Yeah, that works. Killing 2 expansions over here actually is absolutely massive as well, because this now puts Hurricane in a really weird position. Natural, main, and then, well, I guess the third base is non-existent, right? He doesn't really have a whole lot of income here. Just a handful of mineral patches over at this expo. But, I mean, mining that small cluster of minerals with, what was it? 48 probes or 43 probes? Seems a little bit unnecessary. I think what Creator just needs to do right now is just max out, right? Just sit there and just wait. He can obviously try and force the issue as well. I mean, without an observer, these Dark Templar are very powerful. There are 2 observers here from Creator available as well. Decides to just simply not risk it though and morph in the Archons instead, which I don't mind here whatsoever. He doesn't want to give his opponent any wiggle room to get back into this. But it is certainly true right now that this is Creator's game to lose at this point. Oh, he found a prism over there in the bottom right-hand corner. I was going to say, where did he just recall? He saw a prism on the right-hand side of the map, leaves a couple of stalkers and then apparently an observer behind as well to deal with any of the units that may very well be warped in. Maybe Creator doesn't know what we know, though. At this point, maybe he assumes that this base is now taken as well, but at this point, there's barely any money coming into the bank here of Hurricane. Only like 300 minerals a minute versus like the 1,300 or 1,500 minerals even a minute, yeah, of Creator. So Hurricane, at this point, decides to tap out because there's absolutely no way that he can continue playing out this match. Alright, and with those games out of the way, that means that we are ready for the finale of this Best of 5 series. The final map is gonna be Pillars of Gold. I gotta say, that previous game, I think that's my favorite game of PvP that I've seen this year. That was absolutely fantastic. Even though I kinda lost track of a lot of the battles that were going on, because it's hard to know whose observer is whose and which Dark Templar is whose and how they actually relate to each other, right? But these battles, man, they are absolutely insane, and well, I love it. That was really sick. All right, so let's see what we will have on this map. So low ground expo here from Hurricane, and actually the same can be said here for Creator as well. On some maps, this is reasonable to do. So basically, since there's only one entrance right here into the main base, I guess you can, like, if you can magically get a Reaper out, you can jump up over here as well. I guess you can Colossus walk in this area of the map, but doesn't really come into play very often in this specific matchup. Going for the low ground wall obviously makes defending an expansion here a little bit easier, just because you can funnel the units through a certain choke point. So here we go. Pretty much identical build here from both players for now. I think that this is just going to be a single gate from both. Yeah, looks like it. So it's going to be a fast expo here from both of them. And, well, this is basically mirrored so far. Wouldn't be surprised to see Hurricane putting up a probe over here, or sorry, a pylon as well, inside of his opponent's natural. So neither player is going to be able to play the expansion that they were looking for. Second gas already taken here by Creator. No Cybercore yet, though. Okay, there it is. Cybercore eventually does come down, so Hurricane, I guess, got his Cybercore a little bit faster. That means he's going to be able to commit to any tech route a little bit faster as well. Get himself those Stalkers out, or something along those lines a little bit quicker. But all things considered, this should be relatively even. Oh my god. Creator just planted down a cyber core over here as well. Now, fun fact about Protoss structures. You see that? Even without pylon power, they continue warping in. So it's a little bit different than, say, for example, a barracks. When you kill the SCV, it doesn't do very much anymore. Well, the same actually can now be said as well for the natural here of Creator. Cybernetics Corps, they build pretty quick. They're only 150 minerals. They could go ahead and cancel it at the last possible moment if they really want to. But yeah, this is such a pain in the butt. That one Zealot takes forever cleaning any of this up. So even though they both wanted to go for an expo, both of them scouted out exactly what was going on right away as well. And they were now forced to go into one base openers here instead. But one base openers with only one gateway, or with only one gateway rather. A little bit awkward too. A little bit strange. Alright, eventually it looks like the probe will have to pay for that shenanigans with its life. Both players will probably end up expanding here eventually. Oh my god. Adept actually gets in. Yeah, this is not bad at all here for Hurricane. Nicely done. Getting a couple of probe kills already. Forcing a lot of lost mining time here too. Can he get one more? Not quite. Nexus though does come up on both sides of the map. And despite this chaotic opener already in the first 3 minutes, it's basically identical right now at this point in the game. Alright, so here comes the tech. It's going to be a Twilight Council from Hurricane. What is Creator going to go for? He's going to go for a second gateway for the time being here instead. We'll see if he decides to go into like a Stargate or a Robo or something along those lines. In just a little bit. Guess he's really worried here about like potential adepts once again shading in. He doesn't really know at this point what the opponent is going for. So going for the wall off, it does make a little bit of sense. Hurricane obviously does have a force field available as well, so that could save him in a pinch if he absolutely needs to. Hallucinated Phoenix is going to fly across the map and it's going to start looking for the tech here. So the structure that Creator decided to go for here is also going to be the Twilight Council. So Blink is going to be done here for Hurricane quite a bit earlier. Love the fact he decided to go for an hallucinated Oracle. Phoenixes are kind of the standard because they're really like fast obviously, but this can still freak your opponent out and maybe force them to warp in like an extra Stalker or something along those lines. I don't mind it. But Blink on both sides of the map. Okay. I think we're probably going to be setting ourselves in right now for a bit of a lull in this game where neither player really wants to get a whole lot done. Maybe an extra gateway here or two in just a little bit, but I think that this is going to be the passive moment in this match. Creator, though, did decide to warp in 2 Adepts. Don't mind that idea very much. He obviously knows what his opponent is going for, so he knows that this shouldn't deal any damage, but, I mean, if he gets lucky, he could jump into his opponent's natural there relatively easily. Not quite going to happen, though, as the shield battery comes up to finish up that wall off, and then he cancels it again. Once more at the final second. If we can kill one, that'd be nice. I think it's going to shade away, though. Yep. So there they go. Running with that till between their legs. A little bit terrified, but both players just continue scouting and seeing what is going on. So look at the production tab. Despite the chaos that we have found ourselves in right in the earlier stages of the match, look at this. It's basically a mirrored first couple of minutes so far. Other than building, positioning, and all that. There's a pylon, by the way, in the bottom right-hand corner. Hurricane could decide to be a little bit cheeky with that one. Yeah, decides to add on a gateway as well for some fast warp-ins. This may very well be scouted, though, in just a little bit here. This Creator is already sending out some of these bad boys towards the bottom right-hand corner. He does find that there is a gateway here. Third Nexus coming up for Hurricane. In the horizontal position here. Wouldn't be surprised to see the third Nexus here coming up for Creator 2. And just like that, we have an extremely even game in this final match of this best of 5 series. Cool. I mean, I'm assuming he's going to grab it here anyway. If we look right now at the structures available. Look at the structure tab. It's literally the same. Fantastic. All the roads lead to Rome, right? Isn't that the saying? Or all roads lead to Rome, or something along those lines? Even though the paths may be different, you tend to end up in the same place anyway. Kind of exactly what's going on so far in this game, although obviously there are some details here that are a little bit different. So Hurricane does have more supply. He's been favoring that unit production just a little bit. You can see that as well in the timing right now of the third Nexus. Hurricane instead decided to favor the third Nexus here a little bit quicker, and then decided to go for a couple less units instead. Technically speaking, a little bit of a gamble, but once again, with that defender's advantage in PvP being such a big deal, I don't think it really is going to matter all too much. Okay. So how many gateways is that going to be in total right now for Hurricane? He's going to be up to 7 gateways. Alright, so 7 gateways. Very healthy amount of production. In the meantime, here on the side of the player in red, he's got 5 gates right now. Probably will add some more of his own here in just a little bit as well. There's one additional one coming up. 5 is a bit of an odd number, man. Well, it's not even a bit of an odd number. It is an odd number. But it's also a bit of a strange number. He is just making sure that he can continuously warp in more Stalkers if he absolutely needs to. Seems to be that you need about 6 to 7 or 8 gateways to continuously produce those bad boys. Usually later on we will see up to like 10 gateways in this matchup, just so you can warp in continuous units as well. So neither player right now, by the way, is necessarily warping in right away, right? So these warp-ins are available at this point if they want to. Apparently a little bit of Blink Micro right now inside of the opponent's main base here for Creator. So utilizing that Phoenix to provide the high ground vision. Kills a couple of probes and gets on out of there once again with minimal losses. Okay. It looks to me like we're making ourselves up for one big clash between both of these players, right? So have a look at the production tab right now and let's figure out what kind of timing they could be going for. With Charge finishing up right now, Creator could certainly go for a big move at this point if he really wants to. The thing is, he just now secured his third base. He doesn't have that many gateways. He's adding on a couple more right now, so I like that idea. He can go for Archon, Immortal, Zealot, Stalker. Ooh, and a snipe apparently on that Warp Prism. Really nicely done there. Creator, though, is going to apparently have to fight off right now against a pretty large army here from Hurricane. Love the fact that there's once again an hallucinated Archon here as well, just to try and scare the opponent off a little bit. Shield batteries are set up. I would love to see a shield battery maybe on the high ground here in the natural too. Creator desperately trying to warp in as many units here as possible, but Hurricane, is he gonna commit here, right? So look at this. He knows that there's 4 shield batteries. If it's only 1, maybe you can kill it before it gets overcharged, but 4 of them is quite a lot. So this is what I mean. It creates passivity. So while I like it in the early game in some of these scenarios, I don't know if I'm necessarily the biggest fan of it right now. Pretty sure Hurricane wanted to go for a fight, but he looked at that twice and he realized, okay, probably I'm not going to be able to get anything done. I'll just go ahead and back up instead and probably expand behind it. He did leave the Zealots. I don't think 1 Photon Cannon is going to be enough to kill all of those Zealots, so let's see how this goes. Stalker hit squad in the top left-hand corner. Couple of defensive units right now get warped in as well. Obviously, there are shield batteries available, so this may very well actually be okay here now for Creator. He could try his luck and see if he can get into the main base here of the opponent. Obviously, just pulling his army in this direction is going to be pretty neat as well, because that means that the Stalkers potentially can move in behind that mineral line over at the third base. A couple of the Zealots apparently decided to run on over towards the bottom right-hand corner. Stalkers, maybe a little bit early there. Yeah, they wanted to go in, but they know the amount of defenses there in place. It's just not going to happen, so both players once again decide to back up. Okay. Yeah, a couple of Immortals, yeah. Even though it's like 7 Stalkers. No, this is more than 7 Stalkers against 2 Immortals and a couple of Zealots. Immortals pretty good unit, man. They plow through those Stalkers very, very rapidly, to the point where it's not even really an even trade anymore. So, while this is all going on, both players now transitioning towards the Disruptor Balls. One explosion can change the tide of battle. I'm just gonna repeat myself many a times, and at some point, I will be right. I guess we already kind of saw that in the previous game though, right? But it's once again gonna be a Dark Shrine as a follow-up right now for Creator. Wouldn't be surprised to see Hurricane go for his here very shortly as well, as both players are now transitioning towards the 4th base, and it seems to be the correct timing to try and get those dank Templar out. A couple of Zealots will end up going down. Okay. This has been probably one of the most passive games of StarCraft that I've casted, where both players are constantly trying to fight. Here we go once again. Disruptors. Ooh, dealing a decent amount of damage, actually. Nicely done there by Hurricane. Zones his opponent away from the high ground, and this now turns out to be a free kill on the 4th base. Creator apparently decides that maybe this is the moment to go in for the counterattack. Oh, this is just about to be really awkward. Yeah. He knows he needs to kill his opponent's 4th base right now as well to be okay in this scenario. Disruptors! Ooh, managed to get a decent detonation, but obviously these Archons and Immortals are extremely tanky. He's just trying to see if he can potentially kill this Nexus at this point, which he may very well be able to if he decides to just right-click it. Bunch of Stalkers, though, end up getting killed as well at the 3rd base. The base just lives. Disruptor does chase down some of those red Protoss units as well. And just like that, Hurricane finds himself at a massive advantage. Not only did he win the battle, he also kept his base alive. So while he doesn't actually need to commit necessarily right now, I think he is smelling blood in the water. Despite there being a prism up in the air right now for Creator, these Archon glowy boys in the front, they are soaking up so much damage. Another Immortal does end up going down as well. Blink obviously is going to be on cooldown here for at least a little bit, so the prism can't be chased. There's 2 red HP Immortals inside of that Warp Prism as well. Purification Nova coming in from the high ground. Creator desperately trying his luck at this point to see if he can still get a big hit in, but it didn't happen. And I think like that, right? I think Hurricane right now is just going to be able to like steamroll his way through this. I mean, Battery Overcharge already activated. Creator anticipating this army moving in this position as well. Couple more Disruptors come rolling down the ramp. He decides to blink away rather than try to chase it down. You never really know exactly when it's going to be detonating. Battery that was overcharged gets picked off here eventually. A couple of the Stalkers and Immortals now apparently going for the counterattack. They're going to be able to kill the 4th base. That would have been fine a couple minutes ago because right now the 3rd base will end up going down as well. So there is still a full base advantage at this point for Creator. Unless he gets the biggest Disruptor Purification Nova, I don't really see him pushing back this force anytime soon. Reinforcing units as well, obviously, for Hurricane, and right now warped in at home. Battery Overcharge being utilized there too. At this point, Hurricane is breaking his opponent's natural. He shut down one of the robotics facilities as well, so that means a lot of the production will be killed. Still though, I mean, Creator is making the best of this army that he's got right now. The only problem right now is that he doesn't really have a whole lot of production anymore. One more Immortal ends up going down. Natural is also, for all intents and purposes, completely killed. Hurricane has broken his opponent's main base. He's depowering a lot of structures. He's gonna even right-click right now that robotics facility, whereas Creator, I mean, yeah, he probably will end up killing the 3rd base, but at that point, it is gonna be a 2 expansion advantage here for Hurricane. Now, obviously, the win condition in StarCraft 2 is to kill all of your opponent's structures. It looks like a recall was utilized to bring some of those units back home. Archon walks through the force field. Purification Nova once again gets tested, but there it is. Hurricane ends up obtaining the victory in this best of 5 series in a very close game in a 3-2 advantage. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, hit that like button down below. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button so you get notified as soon as future videos go live. A special shout out to the Patreon supporters. Thank you guys very much for all of your generosity. But for now, I want to thank you for watching. Have an awesome day. Don't forget to smile. And I'll see you once again in the next one.